Good morning, everyone. We'll let everyone get down the stairs. Thank you all for being here. Good morning. Adam, come on over on this side. Yeah, perfect. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for being here. We're just so grateful. One more update on our fertilizer plans with a couple of announcements today. As you all know, the high cost of fertilizer is not a new issue. The costs of urea, potash, MAP, DAP, ammonia, and UAN all rose swiftly. For all of you that obviously have been doing this and covering it for a long time in 2021, and for the rest of the Biden administration remained at roughly 55% higher than at the beginning of the Biden administration. Obviously, in 2025, the Trump administration had already begun efforts to lower fertilizer prices. The importance of this work for our farmers has been a significant priority since day one of the Trump administration, and certainly a significant priority of the leaders from the Hill that are here with us today, and you'll hear a little bit from. Prices, of course, remain elevated after going down, but remain elevated due to the conflict overseas. But they are below what they were in late 2021, 2022, and early 2023. I think that's an important reminder. But there is so much work left to do, and that's what we want to keep talking about. President Donald Trump has made this issue a top priority, and as you have seen, and I'm so grateful to our fellow cabinet members who have been constantly working alongside us here at the U.S. Department of Agriculture to address this important issue for our farmers. I'll briefly recap some of the actions we've already taken. Then we'll have a couple of announcements on some new initiatives that we believe will continue to transform the American fertilizer marketplace. Of course, short-term actions, waiving the Jones Act for 60 days and extending it for another 90 days thanks to our president. There has been utilization of that waiver. In fact, our low-end estimates have seen a little more than 65,000 metric tons of ammonia through port movement that would not have happened without that lift. That has been from Louisiana to Florida and Texas to Louisiana. With the added certainty of 90 more days under that Jones Act waiver, we expect to see many more movements, and of course we'll continue to work to keep you all updated. Of course, we waived import restrictions from Venezuela. We will likely have more announcements in the next few days on other restrictions that will be lifted, but we have seen more fertilizer come in from Venezuela with more big announcements coming in the next couple of days. I had the heads of all the major fertilizer companies here you all are tracking a couple of weeks ago, asking them to partner with us for our great farmers in this time. Certainly as the farm economy is struggling to ensure we're doing everything we can to keep costs as low as we can. The great CF Industries delayed their scheduled maintenance to prioritize supplying farmers this year, and Pivot Bio locked in pricing through 2028. We've had several other private sector partners who've also stepped up into this moment to help us support our great American farmers, and to them I say thank you. Our incredible EPA administrator has talked about this and will do so again today, but revising the diesel exhaust fluid rules will continue to be a major short-term effort, but also long-term. The Department of Interior added potash to the critical minerals list. The Department of Justice, alongside USDA, signed an MOU on antitrust enforcement, again longer term but important. And our Department of Transportation, great Sean Duffy, has been working on this issue, will later this week have an announcement on some slight changes for the short term in some of our transportation rules, which will help us get fertilizer to places more quickly and more cheaply. Ongoing actions to build the long-term capacity. Of course, we talked about with Secretary Lutnick a couple of weeks ago, utilizing the Department of Commerce's Investment Accelerator. Today, what a joy it is to have our Secretary of Energy, my friend Chris Wright, who's already done some extraordinary work in this arena. He's going to talk about that. But using the Energy Dominance Financing Program, to build out our fertilizer lanes here in America. Launching the USDA Proving Grounds Network for Ag Tech. Chairman John Hoven has been a big part of this, but as we're looking to make sure we get fertilizer to our farmers, ensuring that we're also investing in technology for the long term, that will be a big help to our farmers and hopefully provide what they need cheaper so that they can become more profitable. And then, of course, supporting future legislative efforts. Our leaders from the Hill had a great hearing just last week regarding transparency and some other big initiatives that we're going to talk a little bit about today. But in partnership together, we are working to make all of these changes. Today, I have 3 quick announcements. Number 1, the Blue Point Project in Louisiana. I think I have a poster up for that. Within 45 days, and thanks to the quick movements of General Butch Graham with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, with Adam Tell, who's here today with us to talk a little bit about it, we should see permitting wrapped up on this project to build a $3.7 billion ammonia plant, which, when opened, will become the world's largest ammonia plant in Louisiana. That permitting, they moved at Trump speed, is what we like to say. Adam will talk a little bit more about that, but so grateful to be able to announce that today. Under another administration, it probably would have not happened, or if it would have taken years and years to get to permitting. We're so excited about not only the fertilizer implications of that, but the hundreds and hundreds of jobs that will come along with it for the great state of Louisiana. And of course, our administrator, Zeldin, will be part of that as well. Number 2, I want to talk a little bit about the Biden administration program, the Fertilizer Expansion, or FPEP projects. FPEP was originally conceived with a very good thought in mind, and that is we have to reshore, onshore our fertilizer production here in America. But what we found when we began to dig into the program, was that, of course, it focused on climate instead of fertilizer impact. Of the 121 projects that were identified in the last administration, only 8 were moved to completion. There were 90 of the projects that were actually lacking agreements. 7 were marked unsatisfactory, totaling $70 million. And in most instances, there was 0 contact information recorded for the awardees. We have now changed that. We are in touch with every single one of them. We have run it down. We are talking to them. Those projects now that were stalled because of climate requirements are now coming back online. So you can hear a little bit more about that too in the coming weeks. We'll be assisting the higher impact awardees with project completion, putting them on Trump speed. For example, an $80 million investment in Washington State under this program that, again, was stalled, was projected to produce 700,000 tons annually of hydrogen ammonia fertilizer that will support over 200 jobs. We expect construction to begin this year. Another example, because these FPEP projects were all over from small to big, but the small ones are important too, as we talk about deconsolidating and deregulating and having smaller alongside larger. A $3.89 million project in Iowa will host a ribbon cutting this summer, specifically to work to expand domestic organic fertilizer production capacity through large-scale composting and nutrient processing. Taken together, we expect these projects that we touched on today at the highest level to unlock over 2 million tons of new annual fertilizer capacity, serving 61,000 producers and adding an additional 30 million acres that will be covered by American-produced fertilizer. That will create over 500 jobs and reduce reliance on foreign investments. So again, I think that this is a really important long-term step, but we're taking these steps immediately to get to the goal of reshoring all fertilizer to our country. All in, domestic fertilizer production of what I've just announced will increase about 4.5 million tons per year, serving about 400,000 producers, the smaller projects, and 290 million acres. There's so much more we can do, but this is an incredible, as I mentioned, first step. And finally, just with a nod to where our incredible leaders last week in the Senate at their hearing nodded, and the importance of transparency in this lane of work. They are moving forward a bill to increase the transparency, to call on the USDA to hire a full-time input economist to work to be more transparent, to get more transparency out into the marketplace. And I'm proud to say that effective immediately, we are already searching for that input economist that will focus entirely with a team on the cost of input so we can continue this high-level partnership with the Hill to ensure we're doing everything that we can for our farmers and ranchers. At this moment, I'd like to turn it over to Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, to talk a little bit more about, from his perspective, what the Department of Energy is doing every day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Brooke. Look, President Trump, Secretary Rollins, and the entire administration love the American farmers. Focus every day on the American farmers. Why? The farm economy and American farmers was the first industry of our nation. Our founding fathers were dominantly farmers. Our nation was founded on farming, and today it remains the most critical industry in our country. How can the head of the Energy Department say something like that? First of all, food is energy, the most important energy. It's the energy that powers the human machine. Without food, there is nothing else. And what is it that drives this incredible economy and makes the United States the #1 producer of food in the world? The reason is, it takes three things. It takes hard-working, patriotic, bold, courageous, and rugged Americans who work our farms across our country. It takes the incredible heartland and soil and natural resources of the United States, and it takes an amazing amount of energy. We use lower forms of energy, hydrocarbons, with land and labor to turn it into the food that makes all of our lives possible, that makes American farm exports around the world possible. That's where I come in, that work in hydrocarbons. When you raise the price of hydrocarbons, you raise the price of growing food in the United States. And our farmers today are struggling. They are struggling because they've been so successful at producing food. We've had surpluses recently, and now we have high input costs and depressed product prices. This is entirely unacceptable. This is a major focus of this administration. We must make the quality of life and the profitability of American farmers better. Unfortunately, this will take us some time, but since the day Secretary Rollins took this job, she has beat that drum with the president across this administration that nothing is too small. Everything we can do to improve the economics of American farmers is a priority. Everything. First of all, let me hit natural gas. Natural gas is the most important hydrocarbon going into farming because of its role in fertilizer. We use natural gas to produce the abundant fertilizers that are required. What did the Obama administration and the Biden administration do? They attacked hydrocarbons. They attacked those forms of energy, which means they attacked farmers. They attacked fertilizer, and they attacked input costs. They made it hard to build new manufacturing plants in this country. They made it expensive to produce fertilizers. We still import a lot of fertilizer. America has a history of an industrial powerhouse, and we are the hydrocarbon superpower of the world. Everything this administration is doing is to reverse those policies, to grow American energy production, to reindustrialize, so to take a lot of that energy and produce abundant, low-cost fertilizers for American farmers. You heard about this fabulous blue project in Louisiana that'll be the world's largest ammonia fertilizer production plant. Why is that plant not done? The Biden administration wanted it to have carbon capture, wanted it to fit their climate-crazy agenda, and it stalled that plant that should be feeding American farms today. But that permit will be issued soon, and that plant will be up. The second loan from the Energy Dominance Finance Office in the Department of Energy, authorized by the One Big Beautiful Bill, or Working Families Tax Cut Act last summer, our second loan was to a facility in Indiana, near West Terre Haute, Indiana, to take coal, gasification, and produce ammonia fertilizer. We have an even bigger project in Michigan to get domestic potash production rising in the United States. Food is the most important industry you have. We take it for granted. We're not here without it. We love the American farmers. The Energy Department, the Agriculture Department, the EPA, and both houses of Congress, at least all of the Republicans, are working together and relentlessly focused on helping America's farmers by drawing down your costs, respecting you, and thanking you for making our country great.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Wright. What a blessing to have him here at USDA. Another great partner in this incredibly righteous effort is our wonderful administrator of the EPA, Lee Zeldin.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins, for bringing us together, a whole of government, executive branch and legislative branch, coming together again here to tackle important issues for the U.S. farmer. At the Trump EPA, we believe very strongly that you can both pursue having thriving farms and cleaner, healthier land, air, and water. We don't have to choose between those two. And when you hear about individual projects that require permits, at the Trump EPA, we are operating under the principle of Trump speed. If there is an air permit or a water permit, there is interpretation of the Clean Air Act or Clean Water Act, that we are doing our jobs as fast and efficiently as possible. And at the Trump EPA, we also believe in doing everything in our power to bring down costs. Now, in the fertilizer space, it involves multiple program offices, from our Office of Water to our Office of Air and Radiation. Our commitment is following the law, applying gold standard science, ensuring that we are pursuing farms that thrive, and that we were able to do all of this at lower cost and at Trump speed. Now, bringing down costs on farms has been a very important priority of President Trump, specifically with his engagement with EPA. He understands that our farmers have inherited so many hurdles by our predecessors, and he wants those obstacles to be blazed through instantly. You heard a reference Secretary Rollins made to diesel exhaust fluid. Over the course of last year, when I was traveling to all 50 states, or as President Trump once joked, all 51 states plus Mexico, during our travels last year, I'll say there's no issue that we heard more feedback from frustration, anger, than diesel exhaust fluid. You know, the first time I heard a story from a farmer, it sounded like he knew of a farmer in the community who once had a tractor that stopped working at an inopportune time. But as I heard the stories over and over and over again, what was clear as day, and you have great senators and members of the House, leaders of the United States Congress here, it's farmers who have tractors that stop working 4 times in 1 year in the middle of harvest. So at the Trump EPA, I announced alongside Secretary Rollins, Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler, Senator Joni Ernst at the Iowa State Fair last August, that we were significantly reversing the diesel exhaust fluid deratements. Now, we needed more data, so at the beginning of this year, we sent a demand letter to the 14 engine manufacturers to get their warranty data on the ways that they have had breakdowns, and fortunately, we have now received all the information that we need to move forward with rulemaking to go even further. Right to repair, something else very important to President Trump. He heard these stories of how a farmer with a tractor wouldn't be able to fix their own equipment. They weren't even able to go to someone in their local community to be able to fix their equipment. They would have to travel a longer distance, more time, more cost, to go to a particular authorized dealer. President Trump said it was outrageous, and he's right. So we fixed it. And the American farmer has the right to repair their own tractor. We are soon going to be introducing a new proposal, and it will be out there for public comment, for farmers across this country to comment on, to completely eliminate diesel exhaust fluid deratements altogether. We've been working closely with USDA, and especially these members of Congress, and working closely with the Army Corps of Engineers on waters of the United States. We have farmers who, because of past administrations' over-regulating their land. A farmer has to go out and hire an attorney or a consultant, pay them to tell them whether or not water on their property is a water of the United States. Well, President Trump wants simplicity. He wants that farmer to have an easier way of life. And we've heard it time and again, whether it's fertilizer, it's right to repair, it's diesel exhaust fluid, it's federal regulation. We're going to do everything in our power to prove that we can both pursue thriving farms and cleaner, healthier, safer land, air, and water. We will not relent any day.
Next up very quickly, our Assistant Secretary Adam Tell, Army Department of War and Army Corps of Engineers, who is a really important partner in this as we're working to, again, at Trump speed, get all of these projects up. And Adam, you've just been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. On behalf of Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Driscoll, I'm pleased to be here to join what I believe is a feature of a Trump administration, which is we got a challenge that's confronting American farmers. It's not just the Secretary of Agriculture's job to fix it. She has the ability to convene the interagency in a way that no other administration has ever done. I want to talk really quickly about this project over here. In February, we launched Building Infrastructure, Not Paperwork, to revolutionize the Corps of Engineers and enable us to build the infrastructure that we build faster at a lower cost. But part of our mission is also to enable Americans to also build the infrastructure that they want to build faster and at a lower cost. When Secretary Rollins brought this project to our attention, as Secretary Wright mentioned, this project was mired in Green New Deal red tape. We got to work, and we expect to have a decision on this project within 45 days. But we didn't stop there. President Trump, at the beginning of his administration, and again earlier this year, issued executive orders around energy and fertilizer that told the interagency to get to work on it. We've used the energy executive order to permit more than 1,000 energy-related facilities during President Trump's term. We are taking that same effort and applying it now to fertilizer. Although President Trump already directed us to do this, I'm concerned based on this project that that message was not penetrating all the way down into our organization, which is spread out across 39 districts. And so just a few days ago, we issued a memorandum to remind our workforce that when it comes to fertilizer, they should not be deterred by red tape. And so all the ambiguity is out of the system. We expect to get this project online as well as many others very soon. And I would just also add, as it relates to the U.S. Army Civil Works program, this facility happens to be located on the Mississippi River. And there's a reason for that, and that's because the inland waterway system that we build and maintain enables the inputs for farmers all across America and in the heartland to go into the system and then to have their products flow throughout the country into the world. And so we're going to continue a pace at that through building infrastructure, not paperwork. Thank you, Secretary Rollins, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Chairman John Hoeven. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary Rollins. And President Trump designated Secretary Rollins to take the lead on the fertilizer issue, and she's leaving no stone unturned. And recognize this has been a problem for our farmers for some time. It just hasn't been solved. But she is after solving it in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. What I want to add today is the Ag Tech Initiative, her National Ag Tech Initiative, which is working to set up proving grounds around the country. First one is near Fargo, North Dakota. It's called Grand Farm, and we're the program manager for the program nationally. But Precision Ag is saving on how much fertilizer and chemical our farmers have to apply right now. It's going to be better tomorrow, and it's going to be better in the future. That's having a short-term and a long-term impact right now. And when Undersecretary Scott Hutchins came out and said, hey, somebody said, well, what's the objective here? He said, to make our farmers more profitable. To make our farmers more profitable. That's a home run. That's what this is all about. The other initiative I want to mention, Secretary Wright is here. He has a lot of experience in our part of the world. And we already have a company, Dakota Gasification Company, that is taking coal, converting it to natural gas, and taking that natural gas and converting it to anhydrous ammonia and urea. more than 1,000 metric tons a day in fertilizer produced here at home, and now we're embarked on another major heartland fertilizer hub to make 600,000 tons a day, working with our great Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. This is an all-hands-on-deck initiative. Thanks, Secretary Rollins.
Thank you, John. Chairman John Bozeman. Did he exit stage right? Oh, we had to go vote. Senator Marshall, please.
Yeah, Brooke, stay here just a second. First of all, we knew that food is medicine. Today we learned food is energy as well. But why we like working with Brooke, with Secretary Rollins, is because you take lemons and turn it into lemonade. We're going to take this challenge right now of high fertilizer prices, and why aren't we the biggest fertilizer producer in the world? Why are we buying fertilizer from Russia? Why are we buying it from China? We're going to take lemons and turn it into lemonade. So thank you for doing that. The biggest challenge right now in the barnyard is input costs, okay? And fertilizers make up 40% of the input costs. So like Secretary Rollins, like many of us, we've been working on this for at least 5-6 years. Whenever Russia invaded Ukraine is when we saw fertilizers jump way higher than they are today, and they stayed higher for at least 18 months than they are today as well. So there's short-term solutions, there's long-term solutions. Love this all-of-government approach, from expediting through the rules and through the permitting process from EPA, energy out there funding new fertilizer plants as well. So lots of good things are happening, but there's things Congress needs to do too, all right? It's time to stop relying on the Trump administration, who, by the way, I think has done more for rural America than any administration has ever done, including adding $65 billion to the crop insurance programs, a $50 billion rural health transformation fund, just for starters as well. So we're locked in on this, bringing down the cost of fertilizers. We did have a great hearing a week or two ago, and just want to keep highlighting our bills that we need to get across the finish line: the Fertilizer Transparency Act, the Fertilizer Research Act of 2025, Homegrown Fertilizer Act, Plant Biostimulant Act, and the Fertilizer Sustain Act. And the last one we need to get across the finish line, of course, is removing the countervailing duties on phosphates from Morocco. So we're going to, again, the White House is doing its part. Congress needs to step up and act at Trump's speed along and try to help solve this riddle for American farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. Our great chairman, G.T. Thompson.
Well, thank you, Brooke. Good morning, everyone. The fertilizer is energy for food production. There's just no doubt about it. It's what provides us the yield to be able to feed the nation, to be able to feed a good part of the world, and quite frankly, to feed the profitability and sustainability of our farmers. And it is such an incredibly important input. Now, I'm proud to stand here with these, what I consider farmer champions from the Trump administration, from my friends in the Senate, from the House, all working together, an all-hands-on-deck approach, given the fact that we all know, and hopefully you all agree, that food security is national security. But that is totally dependent on farm security. And one of the most critical inputs that farmers need for increasing their yield to do all the great things they do, working 7 days a week, is fertilizer. It's that input. And for too long, we have been overly dependent on foreign markets for the various inputs of fertilizer. And we've seen, as my colleagues here, one of my colleagues noted, going back to when Russia invaded Ukraine and where we lost the access to critical fertilizer elements in Belarus and Russia and Ukraine. So fertilizer has probably been one of the most significantly impacted inputs that we need for farming or for this nation because of geopolitical reasons. And so I'm really, just really honored to be here. I appreciate and encouraged by this all-hands-on-deck attitude. I think our farmers are watching. I think our farmers know that we're listening to them, that we care. They saw that in the Farm Food and National Security Act, where we actually have provisions in there to eliminate death for our farmers. This is listening as well, and not just listening, but taking action, taking serious what they need. It does take a whole of government approach to address complicated supply chains, and certainly fertilizer is one of those. Short-term relief has to be balanced with long-term stability in fertilizer production, and I think the things that we're talking about today that are in motion fall into all three categories. Some that will be immediate success, some that will be intermediate, and obviously some that will be long-term. So at the end of the day, we're going to be less reliant on foreign countries for this vital input. Thank you so much.
Thank you, GT. And finally, Congressman Tracy Mann, and then we'll take some questions.
Thanks, Secretary Rollins. Bob Dole, who used to represent my district before Roger and I represented, he used to say, when you're with a group of people and they don't have a problem with you, don't talk so long that changes, which I think is pretty sage advice. So this will be brief, but I would just want to say thank you, Secretary Rollins. Thank you for everyone for the administration for working together to solve these problems for farmers. Thank you for President Trump. There's no question our president sees our farmers, cares about our farmers, loves our farmers, and wants to help them. I think we've got to talk about what's at stake here, and really what's at stake. You know, we are celebrating our 250th birthday here in a few weeks as a nation. And I would argue that we have been the free, prosperous country that we have been for 250 years for lots of reasons, but probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, is we've never had to rely on another country for our food supply. We've never had to rely on another country for our food supply, which is why we say food security is national security, which is why fertilizer matters so much. I look at our family's farm. My brother, I think, literally is sitting on a tractor right now planting corn. Our yields have dramatically increased since I was growing up on that farm, somewhat because of equipment, somewhat because of seed technology, but mostly because of fertilizer. Fertilizer is what helps our fantastic farmers feed the world, which is why these announcements this morning are so exciting. Getting this project in Louisiana up and going, busting through the red tape matters. Getting FPAP back focused on actually increasing fertilizer production matters to our country. Food security is national security. These are great announcements, and they cannot come soon enough. So thank you, Secretary Rollins.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much. All right, very quickly, our DepSec Stephen Vaden is here as part of the Q&A. We're so grateful for his leadership on this as well. We'll take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking my question. My name is Rebecca Zelk. I'm with the Daily Caller. Two questions. First, if I may, on the front of national security, I hear your point that fertilizer and food is crucial for national security. Because of that, we have oil reserves in the United States to sort of soften the blow when it comes to destabilizing conflicts like war with Iran. Would the department consider fertilizer reserves to similarly soften the blow for future conflicts? And also, a question about antitrust. I hear and appreciate your point about increasing competition on the domestic front. Is the department considering any regulations on the antitrust front that you can share with us?
On both questions, and then if anyone else wants to step up, feel free. Every option is on the table right now. The good news is, with President Trump's energy independence focus in the first term and then his focus in this term, while other countries around the world are actually facing significant shortage of fertilizer, our challenge here in America is the cost. And so that is it is a remarkable moment in American history when our president basically flipped the game. And instead of being a net importer, I'm getting a little bit into Chris's lane, so I'm going to be careful here, Chris Wright, but instead of being a net importer of LNG or whatever else, we've become net exporters. And the implication of that cannot be overstated enough, because we now are at a point where we are not relying on other countries, but again, as we've discussed today, we are seeing significant price increases at a time when our farm economy is struggling, and that is what we have to look at very, very closely. So I will say that not right now. We have no plan in place for fertilizer stockpiling, but again, every tool in the toolkit has to be reviewed and analyzed. We are very bullish on this potential policy plan that we're putting into place, that for the long term, we're fixing this. For the short term, until the conflict is over in Iran, we'll continue to look at things like lifting the countervailing duty in Morocco, lifting the transport rules, et cetera. And then, what was the second question?
Antitrust.
Oh, the antitrust piece of
domestic,
this, yes. So working very closely with the Department of Justice. Obviously, the president has and initiating a food supply chain executive order last fall. I've talked to our Attorney General, Todd Blanche. We're going to be meeting on that for the first time very soon. Of course, the DOJ, whether it's the processing companies, the seed companies, the fertilizer companies, I mean, all of this is so important to understand the consolidation that has happened over a course of decades. It didn't happen overnight, but understanding what that means for America, for American security, for our farmers, as we've continued to offshore a lot of our food supply, and certainly foreign adversaries and foreign interests that have come in and purchased a lot of our American producers and consolidating. So all of that is on the table, will continue to be. Anyone else, Secretary Wright, or anyone else want to comment on that? Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you for being here.
Molly Martinez, Gray Television. Thank you, Secretary Rollins, for taking our
Molly.
questions. You mentioned that Secretary Duffy might be loosening some of these transportation laws around getting fertilizer to these farmers. The U.S. has a history of some pretty devastating train derailments. Senator Hoeven, one of them happened in Minot. What sort of safety precautions are you working with other agencies to ensure that if we do sort of warp speed the transportation of this fertilizer, how it can be done safely?
I don't want to speak for Secretary Duffy or the White House on this, but what I will say is that every conversation we have, every meeting where we have these discussions, every piece of paper we put together is always with the safety of Americans first and foremost, and ensuring that everything we're doing has that in mind. So Secretary Duffy, I believe, has been such an extraordinary champion on all of the above, and working to upgrade a lot of these systems that are so old, and ensuring that we're doing what we can, to your point, while we're getting fertilizer where it needs to go, but ensure that we're doing it the safest, most efficient, most effective way possible. And I have no doubt that that will happen as these announcements continue to roll out. Thank you, Molly.
On the domestic, Mark Heller with E&D News.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Hi, good to thank you. On the domestic fertilizer, are you talking about just reviving grants that were already in the pipeline, or is there something additive? And do the grant recipients need to sign on to the new terms and conditions for grants and agreements?
So it's a great question. So the FPEP program, the old fertilizer program, obviously we're reviving that. We will ensure that it is easier and simpler to get to the point of breaking ground and building. I think everything got so mired up in the last administration, but ensuring that obviously the taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely. So that program, to the tune of, I believe, about, I don't have the numbers in front of me, about $700 million now, again, is reignited and moving out. We had 2 or 3 conversations this morning on some pretty significant plants that they mothballed because they couldn't get movement in the last administration, and now are off to the races again. Mark, it's a very good question because we didn't talk about it today, but we will be announcing soon additional funding, an additional program in addition to the FPEP program. So we're building that out right now, and that's coming very soon.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Secretary? So I think 2 of our bills address that. The Homegrown Fertilizer Act, we want to promote competition, right? And I'll give Senator Klobuchar credit also for co-sponsoring this. There'd be a director guaranteeing loans up to $100 million per project to U.S.-based entities. So we want to get new small businesses involved with this. And what I'm really excited about is the Biostimulant Act. So it would amend FIFRA to establish a consistent federal definition for plant biostimulants. And we're seeing these small biostimulant plants pop up all over Kansas with great success as well. So try to give them some more consistent guardrails. So all of those will add to new not the same name brands, increasing competition. And again, I think the concept of biostimulants, we're just scratching the surface of that.
All right, any other questions? Can't see very well.
Yeah, thanks.
One more, last question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Steve Davies with AgriPulse. This question.
Oh, good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you. Secretary Wright, you were talking about the hydrogen ammonia plant, I believe, in the Pacific Northwest. Is that part of the Pacific Northwest, excuse me, hydrogen hub? Is that the same one that the funding was, I believe, frozen for that a few months back? I'm just trying to get more clarification on that.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to any specific programs, but when the Obama administration and then the Biden administration decided to focus on greenhouse gas emissions as the most important thing, that was guaranteed to deliver more expensive energy, more expensive food, more important input costs, because they took the eyes off the ball of human beings and affordability and efficiency. They made it hard for people to build new factories, new build plants. Why did the Blue Point project not thrive? We have the lowest cost, most abundant natural gas on the planet, but they stifled that project because they said you've got to spend a lot of money to inject CO2 underground. You've got to turn dollars into dimes or we won't let you build a plant. Well, most people, unless government's giving them money, won't invest to turn dollars into dimes. So that infected into the fertilizer space as well. U.S. nitrogen production should be booming, but we had climate craziness that made it more expensive and riskier to invest in those fields. In fact, we have a perfect overseas example with Sri Lanka. Just 4 or 5 years ago, it got swept up in this same green climate enthusiasm. And they went one step further than either the Obama or Biden administrations could go. And they said, we're going to ban the synthetic production of fertilizer. You can't use hydrocarbons because they emit greenhouse gases to produce fertilizer. That government lasted 6 months. Food prices skyrocketed, crop yields dropped immediately. They not just lost an election, they couldn't make it to an election, they fled the country. So we did that more slowly in this country. But if you make it harder and more expensive to produce fertilizer, guess what? It's going to be more expensive. This Waters of the USA that Administrator Zeldin talked about, if you make it harder for farmers to manage their farms and manage their equipment, guess what? You're going to make everything more expensive and you're going to force consolidation because big business can deal with an over-intrusive mothering big government. Small independent farmers in competition don't thrive in those environments. This administration's all about helping American farmers, helping American small businesses, driving down prices and pushing wages up. Just sort of that get rid of the nonsense and bring back the common sense.
That was beautifully done. All right, everybody, thank you so much. A special thanks to our cabinet in the Hill. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.